Welcome to that Formula One show. My name is Divan and I'm going to show you what you should know about Formula One, especially the testing that happened recently, and 5 things to take away from the third Formula One test in Barcelona. So what do we need to think about? So I'm going to read it off of this article, and then I'm going to give you my opinion, and then whether you like my opinion or not, you can definitely give me feedback if you appreciate it, or if you don't appreciate it. Any feedback is really I would really love to have your feedback. So any feedback is appreciated from my side. So Formula One 2015 preseason testing is over, and the teams will already be shipping personnel and parts out to Melbourne for the Australian Grand Prix. The race takes place on the 15th of March, which is less than 10 days, people. So less than 10 days, 15th of March, we will be having our first ever race since 2014 Abu Dhabi last year November. So Mercedes will start as clear favorites, but behind them will be treated to a huge battle for second. 3 teams look capable of grabbing the final spot on the podium: Williams, Ferrari and Red Bull. Okay, so what I would like to say about that, wait, let me just finish this article first and then we can talk about that. So further back, it looks set to be tight as well, like Toro Rosso, Lotus, Sauber will be fighting for points and could even be joined by Force India. The Silverstone base team had only 2.5 days of testing, the VJM08, but still managed 365 laps. McLaren only did 380 in 12 days. Testing is never 100% reliable as a gauge of how the season will go, but a vague picture of the year ahead has already emerged. Here are 5 key takeaways from the final test. Okay, so let's see what their first point is on these final tests. Let me just reload this picture because I really want to see a picture at least. So yeah, what I would say is that obviously Mercedes is the clear let's say protagonist, the clear strongest team for 2015. However, I do believe that Red Bull has a very good chance of coming back and showing their true colors. There's no coincidence that Red Bull had a camouflage color on their car. They are very, let's say, secretive about how their car is, and I think there's very good reason why. It's because they actually probably made very good advancements in their cars aerodynamic stance, and that might be the reason why they want to hide the actual shape of their car with their camouflage coloring. So let's just read this first one before I continue to give you my opinions. Mercedes dominated 2014, and all indications are that we were due for another crushing silver wash this year. Neither Lewis Hamilton nor Nico Rosberg did qualifying simultaneous on the super soft tires. Their rivals did, but the combined efforts of Williams, Ferrari and Red Bull all came to naught. Even on the quicker compounds, they couldn't match the Silver Arrow's pace on the soft tires, nor could they match Mercedes' lap total. The W6 did a total of 1,340 across the 3 tests, a distance of 6,122.57 kilometers. Towards the end of 2014, the gap between the quickest Mercedes and the nearest of the fields over a single lap was substantially less than a second. It was 4/10 for a second in Russia, 8/10 in the United States, and 6/10 in Abu Dhabi. So what they're basically saying is that, yes, last year all the teams, Mercedes were ahead of the pack. Everyone knew that Mercedes was the strongest team from the first 3 or so races. So then everyone tried to catch up, and guess what? They did catch up with 6/10. It was down to almost a second before, and then it came to 6/10. So it just means that almost half a second improvement on the performance of the cars that were trying to catch Mercedes. So I also want to say one thing about neither Lewis Hamilton nor Nico Rosberg did qualifying simultaneously on super soft tires. Their rivals did, but the combined efforts of Williams, Ferrari and Red Bull all came to naught. So what they're saying is that Lewis Hamilton, Nico Rosberg or Mercedes did not even use super soft tires. However, their times were much better than Williams, Ferrari and Red Bull. So what I would like to say about that is that you can never really know what the teams are really showing and what their true potential is, especially in testing. Even if Williams, Ferrari and Red Bull didn't show the true pace that Williams showed, it could be that they don't want to show that. It could be that all they are actually focusing on is the reliability of their cars, not even concerned about the qualifying on super soft tires and the times that they actually did. So what I would like to say with that is that maybe their point is also that Mercedes made more laps, more distance. However, you have to look at it from all aspects, and that is that if a team comes out as a clear successor, a clear team to target, then the advantage will no longer be there to surprise. I think if there's anything that many Formula One, let's say enthusiasts would recognize and really admit to, and is that basically Formula One is all about taking chances and risks. And when it comes to making a car, that's exactly the same thing. Not just by making a bold move on a race, passing a teammate or passing your rival. It's not just that. It's also making bold moves in the technical department. And I believe that all these teams are very well aware that if they for some reason showed their true pace, they would be setting themselves up to be let's say not targeted, but they would be having a target on their back, so to speak, for people to say, hey, wait a second, look at these times of these cars and look at the way the car is built, and we don't like the way the car is built, it is against the rules. So what teams like to do is they like to keep a low profile during testing. They like to make sure the car works correctly. I think that is the biggest thing testing can ever really produce for anybody that's watching it or following it, is testing just shows what the cars are doing and what it should do, and if it can do what is expected, and that means driving around the track. And we're not talking about the fastest times. Testing is not about the fastest times here, guys and gals. It's all about finding the people that want to make a car as reliable and as, let's say, as sustainable as possible. So obviously McLaren has shown that they have some serious issues. Ron Dennis is saying that they have a good package. The only thing they need to focus on is just getting down to how to make it reliable, seeing that they've taken a lot of risks. So Ron Dennis has admitted they've been using a method of taking bold steps just to catch up to Mercedes engines, and also they've been taking risks. So they believe that if they take the risk necessary to build the engines to, let's say, in a risky way that they are not used to, which would make it more easier for it to break down, they feel that they can over time get the reliability back if they take the necessary steps to push their car into a new direction, a bold direction, and take chances with the new design, new technical advancements in their engines. So McLaren has admitted that their engine is quite advanced to what their predecessor, their previous car is. They even admitted that there's some special tech attachments and tech advancements in their car that makes their car more advanced than the previous year, which I think is very interesting. and it would be very interesting to see how that car will be and how far that car would go in the middle of the season, if it would be able to catch Mercedes or if it would just be a complete and utter disaster when it comes to reliability. So we will wait and see for that. So let's continue with the next one. We all knew Williams were hiding their true pace throughout the first and second test, concentrating on their own program as expected. They showed their hand at the third and final test and look more than capable of fighting for frequent podiums again in 2015. Reliability was good thanks to the strong Mercedes powertrain, and the team's performance on the timesheets was good as well. Valtteri Bottas set 3 quickest laps, 1 minute 23.063 seconds, using the super soft tires. This was faster than anyone bar Mercedes. But Mercedes, probably. I think that's a spelling mistake. Per James Allen and Dominic Harlow, Williams are also good over a race distance. A day spent on pit stop practice during the second test won't have done the operational side of the team any harm, and speed trap data reported by Grand Prix 247, albeit from the second test, shows that the FW37 has retained the useful low drag characteristics of its predecessor. Williams came in third in the 2040 Constructors' Championship. There is no reason they can't aim for second. So yeah, absolutely, I do agree with that. Williams is trying desperately. Like, Williams has been a name for many years, centuries, you can say, and they never could have really gotten back to their glory days, their years with Alain Prost, where they got the World Championship and the Constructors. So honestly speaking, I don't think financially Williams is strong enough to overleap Mercedes, Lewis Hamilton's skills and talent, and also Rosberg's skill and talent. I don't think Williams truly has a team that is going to be strong enough to compete with Mercedes. Okay, possibly second place, as it's saying here. Let's just face it, if Williams doesn't aim for first place, then I don't see them even getting second place. So if they don't aim first place and fall at least on to a second position, then I would say if they aim for second position, they'll probably not even get that, purely because I think the team is not strong enough, not financially capable of getting further than what they should be. So that is my take on that. I think if they are third this year, they might be lucky. It all depends. Massa has shown that he's got lots of bad luck in that team. He's a decent driver, but he definitely could not do anything in his first season with Williams. So so let's face it, here we are with Ferrari image and the McLaren image. I love the Ferrari's orange-red stripes. Sorry, I say the McLaren's orange-red stripe, and it just really sees that, it shows you that they really want to get back to that color scheme where they had with Ayrton Senna with the white and the orange and the red. So it just seems like they are very reminiscent colors of the past. So Williams are on the podium, center contenders, but they face a real fight to be second best. Ferrari carried their strong form from the first 2 tests in the last. Their single lap pace was much improved from the last season. Kimi Räikkönen put in their best with a 123.276. The lap was 2:10 shy of Williams' fastest on the same super soft tires, but at the last race, 2014 Abu Dhabi, he was over a second slower in qualifying. Not only does the car look quicker, but it also looks to have speed that the notoriously setup sensitive Räikkönen can use. Sebastian Vettel, expected to be the facto leader at Ferrari, was slower, so it's likely that the SF15 has even more pace than we saw. Red Bull will be the third piece of the jigsaw. Our analysis is hampered slightly because they didn't do a qualifying simulation at the third test, but the RB11 looks reasonable in race trim. BBC reports Andrew Benson reports the team's race simulations were broadly similar to those of Williams. So fans more interested in multi-team battles can at least take some solace, even if the fight for the lead will be very much a two-horse affair. It is extremely tight between the three closest challengers. And when McLaren, whose car looks good in spite of multiple reliability problems, and whose driver lineups is perhaps the strongest on the grid, can get their power unit running at a full whack, it may become a four-way tussle. So we've got this website. The website is called Bleacher Report. Bleacher Report, I know I've heard of this website quite a lot. I never really went on it, but I do appreciate this article. I really like this article. That's why I went and I recorded this now for you to view and look at, and also giving you my comments. So what I would say regarding Kimi Räikkönen is, Kimi Räikkönen, I really felt bad for Kimi Räikkönen last season. He just fell apart. I don't think Kimi Räikkönen is ever really going to be a Formula 1 championship contender when it comes to being a Formula 1 champion driver. That's what I feel. And unfortunately, I am a massive Kimi Räikkönen fan, or should I say was. And that's very sad for me to say and admit, but I do believe that Kimi Räikkönen has reached an age where he's no longer really concerned about proving himself. He's more concerned about just hanging on, wearing the red Ferrari coat or dress or whatever you call it, uniform, and just being around. So I honestly think Kimi Räikkönen's days of being a championship driver, winner and driver, is over. I think Vettel is the only guy that's truly going to show an upstage Kimi to bring Ferrari their next Formula 1 championship. If I'm proven wrong, I would actually be happy, but unfortunately I have to take the facts in consideration, and I know that the current cars do not suit Kimi Räikkönen well. Even the whole season last year, when they tried to, even when Räikkönen said the car setup last year was good again, closer to the end of the season, he didn't show any real performance. So Alonso constantly upstaged Kimi Räikkönen, and I'm really sorry to say this. I think Kimi Räikkönen is a backmarker when it comes to being a Formula 1 championship driver. Vettel, I believe Vettel is going to try his best. I think the chance of Vettel being a Formula 1 championship driver is quite huge. I think the potential is very big. The biggest reason why is, if you look at the season with Red Bull, you notice, and I noticed, and if you want to admit it, or if you could have noticed it, you would notice that even from the beginning of the season, it seems like the contract with Ferrari was already signed. So it means that Red Bull knew that they would not have Vettel's driving experience with them coming into this season, which is 2015 season. And I think that is why you saw such a bad gap between Ricciardo, the new driver, the new Australian Red Bull driver, Ricciardo, and Vettel. I think it's because the team made sure that they show Vettel that he is nothing without their support, which makes sense. It makes sense to a point where if you don't cost your team money, why would you purposefully put him in that position where he can't even move forward with you, leaving your team in a good light, at least giving you maybe even another championship? Who would have known? But I truly believe Ferrari signed Sebastian Vettel even before the season opener of the Australian Grand Prix, last year, 2014. So that is my honest opinion. That's why I'm thinking that Sebastian Vettel has all the potential. Even though last year he looked like a wimp, I think He's coming back stronger than ever. He's going to be the next Schumacher, and I mean Schumacher in the sense of doing whatever he can, team orders, tricky maneuvers, cutting rules, trying to shave off, some kind of illegal thing just to get himself to be the next Formula 1 Ferrari championship driver. I think they've got the right driver. Vettel is going to do that for them. I really do believe that. So when it comes to McLaren, and also when it comes to Red Bull's performance, I think Red Bull definitely has one of the best cars. They had the best cars in the last 3 or so years, except for last season. I think Red Bull is going to be the ultimate team to challenge Mercedes. I do believe that, and I think Ricciardo could be the next Formula 1 champion, new champion driver for the first time of his career in Formula 1, purely because of the car. And I don't want to see that, because I think Ricciardo, even though he's got good potential, I still think the team gave him that opportunity to upstage Vettel, and I think you never know or never knew what Vettel could have done with that car if the team somehow didn't hamper that progress. So hamper his progress with the new car and system. So what I would say is that is my take on that. So let's move on to the next one. And then this is things weren't looking good for Force India before the third test. They had yet to debut their 2015 car and would have only 3 days. It wasn't due to be ready until day 2 to iron out teething troubles. Fortunately, there weren't many of those. Though it missed almost all of Friday morning, the car was reliable straight out of the box. In just 2.5 days of running, Force India clocked up 365 days of the Circuit de Catalunya. That's only 15 fewer than McLaren managed in 12 days. There wasn't enough time to look at much in the way of setup work, which driver Sergio Perez spoke to reporters about in Spain, as per ESPN. I'm always expecting to find out about a new car. It was so good. We had a reference with the old car. We are a couple of steps behind our competition. We only had 2 days, but it's a reality. We can't hide it. But it's promising start. I think it will take us a couple of races to get to where we want to be. But the most important thing, and something that makes me feel a bit more comfortable, is that we have a very clear direction on where we need to improve the car and the setup. We have to make as a team to improve the car. That makes me a bit more comfortable, but there is a lot of work ahead of us, and as I say, we are a couple of steps behind the competition. So while not quite ready for the competitive, Force India aren't far away. Quite an achievement for a team that did less than 3 days of testing. So they did less than 3 days of testing. I honestly, when it comes to Force India, I don't really see them as massive competitors. There's not really drivers in Force India that I really feel like, I mostly feel sorry for those drivers, because they probably have the potential, but they don't have the car or the team. Same with the Sauber team. I feel sorry for the drivers. They possibly have the potential, but they cannot prove that with a car that isn't top of the range, as you would know from Ferrari, McLaren, Mercedes, and Red Bull. So let's move on. Much of the attention during the test focuses on bigger teams. Mercedes were doing this, Red Bull were doing that, and Ferrari were somewhere in the middle. But the smaller teams were there too, and this is usually the stage where we identify whether any of them have taken a significant step forward. From what we saw, they haven't. Lotus, Toro Rosso, Sauber all did impressive looking times on the super softs, but none got within a second of the time Mercedes did on soft tires. The gap back from Williams super soft tires was around a second. Looking at some qualifying times from the last season, that's an improvement. For example, Sauber were around a second and a half shy of Williams at 2014 United States Grand Prix. Adrian Sutil qualified Q2 versus Valtteri Bottas qualifying third. But the gap is still there, and it is still significant enough to keep those smaller teams very much in the middle of the pack, or if minor don't make it at the rear. I don't know why that was difficult to pronounce. So another one, the final one before we cut this episode off, is that the start of the Formula 1 season is less than 2 weeks away, and well, it seems like it's going back to the front. Okay, so basically it went back to the beginning, and it's showing all of the stuff I don't really want to even consider. So what I would say from my experience so far, and from Formula 1, is that you can only judge what's really going to happen from the first 4 races. You take the first 4 races, you see which team constantly ends up in the podium, regardless if one teammate is crashed out. You see which of the team drivers are in the podium, and then after those 3 or 4 races you would realize which teams or team is the strongest, or which teams do stand a chance of competing for the first podium spot in the World Championship. And what I would say is that can't wait for the Formula 1 season to start. As always, I'll give you some more info and feedback, and I'll give you my opinion. Hopefully you will share yours. I'll definitely read your comments, and I'll comment on your comments. I'll mention your name, I'll comment on it. I want to have an interesting conversation. Formula 1 is my passion. I've been overseas, I've met Massa, I've met David Coulthard, I've met Lewis Hamilton, I've driven David Coulthard around. If you believe that or not, I even told him if he feels better, then he could drive the car that I was driving him around, and he said no, it's cool. So you know, I've met you know, so many drivers, Formula 1 drivers in my experience, and I feel my passion for Formula 1 since I was a child is huge. And my knowledge, I have to say, even though my knowledge in the past is quite big, Formula 1 constantly changes. It never stays the same, and it always brings new, different feel to the whole sport. So regardless of what happened yesterday, I know Formula 1 is different tomorrow, and that's why I can't wait to see what's going to happen in the new season. So hopefully you'll stay tuned, watch, comment, give me your feedback. Please, I'm here to share my passion and find out who's going to be the top of the ranking drivers, and who's going to show what they have as drivers. I don't care if they're driving the best cars. What I care about, if they can, you know, drive and make a worst car look best just by their driving skills, I think that is a winner in my book. So any drivers that perform very well, we will definitely look at that, mention that in the coming episodes, and we will look at what to expect in this new Formula 1 season. So yeah, I was looking at posting an episode every day, and I think for doing that is way too tedious, in the sense of it's better to look at a race coming, and when the race is finished, then commenting on it. I think that's the most interesting thing to do, and that is what I really would love to do, is just look at the race, analyze the race, and just comment on what happened on the race, and see what exactly everyone is saying about the race, and even you guys sharing your comments. And let's, you know, talk about this. Let's get our passion going, and let's build an awesome new 2015 season, and you know, let's just see who wins. So thank you so much for watching this episode, and ciao for now.